9 of the most terrifying words in the English language are "I'm from the government" and "I'm here to help." Ronald Reagan. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Ronald Reagan. We can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. Ronald Reagan. We must reject the idea that every time a law is broken, society is guilty rather than the lawbreaker. It is time to restore the American precept that each individual is accountable for his actions. Ronald Reagan. When you can't make them see the light, make them feel the heat. Ronald Reagan. Above all, we must realize that no arsenal or no weapon in the arsenals of the world is so formidable as the will and moral courage of free men and women. It is a weapon our adversaries in today's world do not have. Ronald Reagan. All great change in America begins at the dinner table. Ronald Reagan. Coercion, after all, merely captures man. Freedom captivates him. Ronald Reagan. Don't be afraid to see what you see. Ronald Reagan. Entrepreneurs and their small enterprises are responsible for almost all economic growth in the United States. Ronald Reagan. Government exists to protect us from each other. Where government has gone beyond its limits is in deciding to protect us from ourselves. Ronald Reagan. If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be one nation gone under. Ronald Reagan. The struggle now going on for the world will never be decided by bombs or rockets, by armies or military might. The real crisis we face today is a spiritual one. At root, it is a test of moral will and faith. Ronald Reagan. I used to say that politics was the second oldest profession. I have come to know that it bears a gross similarity to the first. Ronald Reagan. Freedom is the right to question and change the established way of doing things. Ronald Reagan. One of the traditional methods of imposing statism or socialism on a people has been by way of medicine. It's very easy to disguise a medical program as a humanitarian project. Ronald Reagan. Government is like a baby, an alimentary canal with a big appetite at one end and no responsibility at the other. Welfare's purpose should be to eliminate, as far as possible, the need for its own existence. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny. We'll preserve for our children this, the last best hope of man on earth, or we'll sentence them to take the last steps into 1,000 years of darkness. Ronald Reagan. Surround yourself with the best people you can find. Delegate authority and don't interfere as long as the policy you've decided upon is being carried out. Ronald Reagan. The best minds are not in Washington. If any were, business would steal them away. Ronald Reagan. There are no great limits to growth because there are no limits of human intelligence, imagination, and wonder. Ronald Reagan. Thomas Jefferson once said, "We should never judge a president by his age, only by his works." And ever since he told me that, I stopped worrying. Ronald Reagan. I hope we have once again reminded people that man is not free unless government is limited. There's a clear cause and effect here that is as neat and predictable as a law of physics. As government expands, liberty contracts. Ronald Reagan. If we lose freedom here, there is no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Ronald Reagan. Without God, democracy will not and cannot long endure. Ronald Reagan. Protecting the rights of even the least individual among us is basically the only excuse the government has for even existing. Ronald Reagan. Some people wonder all their lives if they've made a difference. The Marines don't have that problem. Ronald Reagan. Man is not free unless government is limited. Ronald Reagan. Life is one grand, sweet song. So start the music. Ronald Reagan. The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He is the one that gets the people to do the greatest things. Ronald Reagan. Heroes may not be braver than anyone else. They're just braver 5 minutes longer. Ronald Reagan. The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave. Ronald Reagan. Information is the oxygen of the modern age. It seeps through the walls, topped by barbed wire. It wafts across electrified borders. Ronald Reagan. To grasp and hold a vision, that is the very essence of successful leadership, not only on the movie set where I learned it, but everywhere. Ronald Reagan. I believe the best social program is a job. Ronald Reagan. Trust, but verify. Ronald Reagan. We will always remember. We will always be proud. We will always be prepared. So we will always be free. Ronald Reagan. We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Ronald Reagan. Don't try to make your dreams a reality. They're only filled with things that don't make sense and trolls. Things are better in reality. Concentrated power has always been the enemy of liberty. Ronald Reagan. I know in my heart that man is good, that what is right will always eventually triumph, and there is purpose and worth to each and every life. Ronald Reagan. There is no limit to the amount of good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. Ronald Reagan. Never let things you can't do stop you from doing what you can. Ronald Reagan. A people free to choose will always choose peace. Ronald Reagan. I have wondered at times what the 10 Commandments would have looked like if Moses had run them through the U.S. Congress. Ronald Reagan. I have spent most of my life as a Democrat. I recently have seen fit to follow another course. I believe that the issues confronting us cross party lines. Ronald Reagan. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer, not an easy answer, but simple. Ronald Reagan. Evil is powerless if the good are unafraid. Ronald Reagan. If not us, who? And if not now, when? We must be cautious in claiming God is on our side. I think the real question we must answer is, are we on His side? Ronald Reagan. I believe now, as I always have, that America's strength is in we the people. Ronald Reagan. To grasp and hold a vision that is the very essence of successful leadership, not only on the movie set, where I learned it, but everywhere. Ronald Reagan. I've noticed that everyone who is for abortion has already been born. Ronald Reagan. Before I refuse to take your questions, I have an opening statement. Ronald Reagan. In raising and instructing our children, in providing personal and compassionate care for the elderly, in maintaining the spiritual strength of religious commitment among our people. In these and other ways, America's families make immeasurable contributions to America's well-being. Today, more than ever, it is essential that these contributions not be taken for granted, and that each of us remember that the strength of our families is vital to the strength of our nation. Ronald Reagan. What makes him think that a middle-aged actor who's played with a chimp could have a future in politics? On Clint Eastwood's bid to become mayor of Carmel. Ronald Reagan. It's hard when you're up to your armpits in alligators to remember you came here to Washington to drain the swamp. Ronald Reagan. A nation that cannot control its borders is not a nation. Ronald Reagan. Government is not a solution to our problem. Government is the problem. It isn't so much that liberals are ignorant. It's just that they know so many things that aren't so. Ronald Reagan. The federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government. Ronald Reagan. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Ronald Reagan. There are no constraints on the human mind, no walls around the human spirit, no barriers to our progress except those we ourselves erect. Ronald Reagan. Government's first duty is to protect the people, not run their lives. Ronald Reagan. Within the covers of the Bible are the answers for all of the problems men face. Ronald Reagan. Many a man has failed because he had his wishbone where his backbone should have been. Ronald Reagan. I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue on this campaign. I am not going to exploit my political purposes, my opponent's youth and inexperience. Ronald Reagan. Recession is when your neighbor loses his job. Depression is when you lose yours. And recovery is when Jimmy Carter loses his. Ronald Reagan.